The story begins with our protagonist, Sahan, a high school boy, who had his life flipped upside down when he was summoned into a new world known by the name Haranor. He was summoned by the king of a mighty empire, and was supposed to be their so-called proclaimed hero. However, upon arriving in this new world, he gets outcast by the king as he only resembled a high school boy, which is not what the king expected from a legendary warrior that was supposed to save their nation from the looming calamities. Sahan, our protagonist, decides to seek revenge and gathers up a group of comrades who are also hell-bent on killing the king. After many years, as the group gets stronger, they decide to head to the main palace and defeat the king. However, after defeating the king, our protagonist was not only betrayed by his so-called comrades, but forcefully sent back to his own world against his own will. Their reason for doing this was because Sahan, the hero, had become too popular with the citizens as the so-called otherworldly savior that defeated the monster invaders. His comrades then thought at this rate it would be Sahan instead of the king ruling over them, which they did want. So Sahan's comrades decide to kick Sahan into the portal and split the rule of the kingdom between themselves. This era of rule was colloquially known as the Six Kingdom era among the citizens, an era of peaceful and prosperous rule, supposedly. A new scene begins with a young farmer girl, who began her morning routine farming her crops. The day was beautiful with clear clouds and blue skies. However, suddenly to her surprise, she sees a flat fish fall from the sky. She is a bit puzzled as it's quite strange for aquatic animals to fall from the sky, but she thinks nothing of it and moves on with her day and goes back to farming. Yet just when she was heading back to farming, another animal species fell from the sky. This time, it was a pig. A pig? What else could fall from the sky? A naked man or something, she thought. Moments later, a naked man fell from the sky with all his glory and fell head first into the ground. Her day could not get any stranger. She decides to let the mysterious naked man stay at her house and take care of him and any injuries one might expect from falling out of the sky. As nighttime approaches, the man wakes up and wonders where he is and how he arrived here. The farmer girl tells the man that he arrived early and fell on the ground by her house. As it turns out, this man was Cian, the otherworldly savior. He had come back to this world after 10 years to seek revenge on those who had wronged him. However, the farmer girl had no idea and thought he was just some weird guy as he looked different from and spoke a different language from the rest of the people she knew. "Oh crap, this is Terranor, not Earth," says San. "Where are we?" he asks. "We are deep in the mountains of the Rostang Kingdom," she says. An evil grin takes shape on Sahan's face. As it turns out, Rostang was a former friend of Sahan and was one of the people who betrayed him. The two decided to eat dinner and ask questions about each other. Sahan asks the girl what her name is, and she says her name is Alita, a simple farmer girl. Sahan asks the girl another question, how she is related to Emperor Rustenard. This causes Alita to be in a combative frenzy, and she begins to attack Sahan. However, Sahan is too fast and can dodge her attacks easily, even being able to use only a spoon to stop a sword attack from her. It's revealed she's a sword hire, a person specialized in combat. Our MC says he just wants to talk, and when the farmer girl asks him who he was, he says his name is Cian Sion, the otherworldly savior, Cian Sion. The girl then reveals that she is actually Emperor Rustenard's daughter. A flashback begins of Alita's backstory. Her mother holds her tightly as the citizens of the Emperor begin raiding the palace. As she is holding on to her final breaths, she sends Alita away with her bodyguard, who swore to protect Alita for the rest of her life. Her bodyguard raised Alita in the farm and taught her everything. However, he was killed when his identity was revealed as a free sword hire, so Alita has been living alone since then. Alita asks Sahan if he really was the otherworldly savior, and if so, why did he turn up Alita? Sagan aggressively explains that he had no choice, and he arrived naked the first time he arrived in this world as well, and that it was even worse when he returned to Earth and appeared naked in the middle of an intersection. San also reveals that he used Alita to summon himself into the world, as like the king, only descendants of the royal family can open portals to the other world. Soldiers appear outside of Alita's farmhouse. Alita equips herself and prepares for battle. The soldiers were sent because they sensed summoning magic in the area, meaning a descendant of Ruskanad was still alive, as only his descendants could use summoning magic. In other words, they were targeting Alita. A mage uses a fire attack and causes the house to burst in flame. Zimon, a sword hire soldier, believes that his attack was a bit too extreme, and they were supposed to be taken alive. Alita emerges out of the flames and begins attacking the soldiers. Zeman tells Alita that he will be his opponent, and they begin dueling. Stan appears suddenly behind Zenon. Zenon is confused how he could not sense him approaching him even though he stood so close. Stan punches Zenon and he is sent flying into the air. A mage orders the soldiers to attack Sihan and Alita. Satan smacks all of them into the air, and they get sent flying. Zenon then realizes that he had seen those skills before. Staten noticed Zenon had woken up and prepared a punch. Staten tells Zenon that he has to go to sleep a while longer. Zenon gets smacked head first into the ground once again. The mage thinks who on Terganor is this new foe, and how was he able to defeat the soldiers so easily? The soldiers decided to retreat as they were no match for Sihan. However, upon closer inspection, they noticed that no one was injured, nor had they suffered a single casualty. Staten tells Alita that the side effects of interdimensional travel were greater than he expected, and now he only had 1/10 of the aura he once had 10 years ago. Alita has a broken arm and says she would get going. Sin asks her how she expected to get off this mountain with a broken arm. Alita thinks about it and decides to stick together with Sihan. They decide to leave the farmhouse as Alita's identity had been exposed and she had to go in hiding. They decide to head to the merchant city Kargan to freshen up. A new scene begins in the royal palace of the Rilstein kingdom. A messenger approaches Rilstein. Afterwards, Rilstein heads underground to a dungeon. His dungeon looks like some sort of experimental lab. A man is chained up in a cell and has weird green symbols on the ground where he sits. Turns out this man is a descendant of the Rusklan Empire. Rilstein tells the man that the green symbol means that his magic is done converting. Rilstein then stabs the man straight in the heart. He says he has reached the limit of what he can achieve with the blood taken from weaker bloodlines and needs a pure-blooded descendant to open interdimensional portals. A messenger had told Rilstein they failed to capture Alita and that a man with dark hairs and dark eyes overpowered the soldiers. Rilstein is worried a tinge of doubt lies in his head as he ponders about the possibility of Sihan, the otherworldly savior, coming back to this world. However, he dismisses the idea as ridiculous and says that it's impossible. Sihan and Alita arrive at Kargan City. Stan reveals that it used to be called South Clamion, and this place used to be his main base. Sam uses a technique that makes him disguise and look like the locals. Alita is astonished and says, "Isn't that the Thief Queen's 1,000-face technique?" Satan replies saying that it was actually he who originally developed the technique and taught Lavina how to use it. They decide to find a place to stay, and the owner is mad at Sihan for being rude. Sihan realizes that he forgot that people in Terranor talk in an overly formal way, and he was talking too casually. Satan says he wants to join Alita, but Alita swiftly denies him, saying that she is on the run, and sticking with her will probably do more harm than good. Satan then says that if it wasn't for him, she would actually be immediately caught, as he was using his magic to block the traces of summoning magic that were emitting of her. He's basically saying that she has no choice, and that she has to stick with him.